Hello and welcome. Buenos dias, buenas tardes, or maybe buenas noches, depending on where you are. My name is Alicia Goldstein-Round, and I am the Managing Director of MIT Spain, a MISTI program. As you saw in our video, MISTI facilitates experiential learning opportunities for MIT students and faculty through internships, teaching, and research collaborations. Since 2007, MIT Spain has sent nearly 800 students to live, work, and be immersed in the Spanish workplace, culture, and lifestyle. The Festival of San Fermín usually attracts many of the MIT Spain participants each summer. Of course, this year is quite different, and while we cannot attend the festival this year as spectators, as it has been canceled, we wanted to offer a unique alternative. Dennis Clancy, who will introduce himself shortly, is here today talking to us from Pamplona, Spain, to tell us about his experience running with the Bulls in the past decade or so. Before we begin, I wanted to make a disclaimer around how our focus today is learning about an element of Spanish culture and history. This is not a statement about animal cruelty, but rather a way for you to virtually experience and witness a piece of Spanish culture. Dennis has graciously shared a link to watch his documentary, Chasing Red, free of charge for a short window of time. Details on how to view this will be shared after today's event. We also will have time at the end after Dennis's talk for Q&A. And now please join me in welcoming Dennis Clancy.
Hi, you guys hear me all right? Thanks so much for that introduction. It's good to be with everyone today. Thanks for having me on today. I'm excited to talk to you about a topic that I've spent now a considerable amount of my life learning about, first as a documentary filmmaker and now as kind of someone who instructs people that are coming to San Fermín to particularly run with the bulls. But today we'll start with talking about the bull itself, because I think any good story about San Fermín starts and ends with the bull, the center of it all. I'll talk a bit about my experience as a runner in Pamplona for 13 years, save the last two when Fiesta was canceled. You might be able to hear a little bit of sound in the background. Fiesta is canceled, but people are still celebrating a bit, albeit in smaller groups, and there's a little less trash around, but beautiful all the same. We'll also talk just a little bit, well, probably primarily for the majority of our time, we'll talk about San Fermín. Who is San Fermín and what is this festival? Because there are so many things outside of the festival beyond the bull run. I'll go through my background a little bit, which I think informs how I ended up here. Ultimately, I did my undergrad at West Point. I graduated from there in 2004, knowing really upon graduation that I'd be deployed somewhere in combat. It was, it was post the invasion of Iraq. We were already in Afghanistan at the time. And sure enough, a year or so after my graduation, I was in Iraq for 1 year in an area called the Triangle of Death, which was a transformative year for me. The opportunity to be able to lead servicemen into some very difficult situations for a 23-year-old was something that I think helped to form my character and really gave me an appreciation for other cultures. It was always really important to ensure that my soldiers were grounded with a sense of, the good people and their culture and their history, so that we were always kind of attached to the community, that we knew people there, we trusted people there. And I think that informed in some, to some degree, my later visit to Pamplona. So if you fast forward about 8 months past getting back from Iraq, it was summer and I needed a vacation. And of course, as an American, I wanted to run with bulls because that seems to be something that people gravitate towards really because of Hemingway and his stories. But it's one of those exciting things that I think we all have heard about, but to some degree, sometimes know very little of. And so I came here for the first time in 2007, kind of filmed my trip. I was into documentaries a little bit and had spent most of my undergraduate time flying from New York into Europe on short duration trips, and I had started creating these more complex trips, and I wanted to capture this road trip we were doing across Europe. But as soon as I got to Spain, I was transfixed on this tradition of running with bulls. You know, a lot of times people think, you know, they find it very exciting. Then they get here, they're in the streets, there's chaos. They're trying to figure out which way the bulls are coming, and it can get pretty uncomfortable pretty fast. The run route itself is only a half-mile long, but you can have up to 3,000 people packed within that span, within 866 meters. And so what you get often in the run is a panicked mass of humanity. And it's very hard to tell where the bulls are because they're somewhat shorter than the humans that are running at you. And it creates panic. It creates piles of people at times. I'll get into a bit about the behavior of the bull itself, but after feeling somewhat bulletproof coming out of a very tough year in Iraq, I found myself quite uncomfortable running for the first time in Pamplona. And I thought it was an interesting topic that I could explore from a documentary perspective to try to understand the mentality, why people do this, how this even still exists as a tradition. I think these are all questions that we ask coming from other cultures. And so I set out to make this documentary, which will be shared with you all, Chasing Red. You know, a note about Chasing Red is that, yeah, as they alluded to in the intro today, it's not a documentary that has a particular bent on it. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I was trying to really just truthfully capture, provide a window into this world. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but either way, I was here, but I had no idea how to make a documentary. And I had no idea what the story would be. And so it took me some number of years. And in the process of that, learned to become a bull runner in the town. And let me kick it to a few slides. As I said, all good stories start and end really with this bull. So this is obviously not the bull itself. It's a very accurate rendering by Dmitry Posov. But as you can tell, it's El Toro Bravo. This is the Spanish bullfighting bull. It's been bred for hundreds of years, really for two qualities that the Spanish valued in the animal, and that's noble y bravo. Noble in the sense that it's self-assured, it's self-confident, and bravo in the fact that it just has a fierceness like none other. It's been bred for its physique. It's been bred for its temperament. Jose Antonio del Moral, one of a very notable Torino critic, said, "This animal is the invention of man. Like, we've created this animal over hundreds of years of breeding. All these animals have better family trees than any of us. They all have names. They all have to live to at least 4 years of age before they're introduced into a city." So as a random side fact, if you look at Lamborghini cars, many of the models of Lamborghinis are actually named after famous Miura bulls. There was a Lamborghini Miura, Aventador, Murcielago, Islero. These are all names of famous Miura bulls. So El Toro Bravo is the most revered animal in Spain. And I think, you know, that goes back thousands of years to an animal now extinct called the oryx that once roamed in Central Europe. And you can see the oryx on, you know, if you go to the caves not far from here in the Pyrenees Mountains, the cavemen that Neanderthals once scratched out on the walls, there was a fascination with the power of this animal, the almost godlike power of the animal. And, you know, you have, if you look at the Mediterranean, there was the ancient Mithriatic cult of the Mediterranean. This animal has always been revered because of its power and because it is fierce and it is stronger than humans. It's stronger than men. It's stronger than women. Either way, it's incredibly athletic, I'll say. The run route, as I said, is 866 meters, and they can cover it in 2 minutes. And that includes probably 5 to 10 seconds to get out of the gate, and run across at the end through the sand of the bull ring. But they're running at a 4-minute mile pace at their slowest. They're doing that in a completely new environment. They've never encountered people as bipeds before. They're running through anywhere from 1,500 to 3,000 humans in those 2 minutes. They're going up 2 hills and through 5 turns, not knowing the route. And so it's an incredible animal, to say the least. I'll go to the next photo here. So I'll put this up. I'm going to spare anyone from any gory photos, but I wanted to put this up. This young man, his name was Jacques. I believe this was 2017. In the bed next to him was a good friend of mine, Bill Hillman, who was gored in the butt, which is a rather unfortunate place. Jack had his forearm there eviscerated by the horn of a bull, and had ended up in the hospital. Had come to Pamplona just the night before, had run with his friend, and had the unlucky experience of his injury. Went down to the town hall, and we luckily found him when we were visiting Bill, and gave him our cell phone so he could call his parents, because it would only take a few hours before there were pictures all over the news of Jack, and his parents would be worrying. You know, I put this picture up because I made a documentary in Pamplona, but what I realized in the process of being here was that there are a lot of people that come from other countries that don't always understand exactly what the risk is. Part of El Toro Bravo being both noble y bravo, it is completely fearless on the run route, and it does not hesitate if it needs to strike out on its own and go after people. And so, you know, whether you're a first-time runner or you're a runner of 40 years, no one's really safe on the bull run from the bull. As we always say, right? If you mess with the bull, you get the horns. And I'll say at that point, you know, I'm always a little discouraged at the number of people I meet who have been to the running of the bulls that came away with a thought that the ultimate experience in the run is to hit or touch the bull, which is an idea that incenses runners, because as revered as the animal is, and as much as we know, if provoked, it can do rather ugly things. One of the core rules of the run is that you should not be touching the animal in any way. Some runners do carry newspapers during the run. It harkens back to years ago when people would read the newspaper and they wouldn't just throw it out after 10 minutes, but they'd carry it around all day, and they'd probably read the whole thing. But the newspaper would always have the pictures of the bulls. It would also explain what colors the bulls are, because they can be different colors, and we'll get to that. Either way, Jack survived it. He lost his shoes. We went and bought him a red pair of Chucks, and he was on his way at the end of Fiesta. I don't think he'll run again, but friend for life. I talked a little bit about what not to do at the running of the bulls. You know, you don't want to touch or impede the animal in any way. I'm nearly impeding the animal in that first photo here that you can see. You really want to run at pace directly in front of the horns of the bull. Now, that's not what you're going to do if you were running for the first time, and we'll get into that a little bit. But if you're to be seen as a bull runner, you want to not impede the animal, but you want to run at pace directly in front of it down the street. And because they're running so fast, you can only do that for a portion of the run. And so a good run might just be a few seconds, and then you're moving out of the way and allowing the bulls to continue on. And there's some other runner waiting down the street to lead them up just a little bit further. I said leading, obviously the bull is doing as it wishes, and it is a herd animal. So for the most part, we expect the bulls to stay in their herd and stay together. But again, they're noble and they're bravo, and they'll do as they wish. They command the streets. One of the most dangerous things that you see on the bull run is when you have a suelto, a loose one. Because a bull alone seeks to establish its territory, and it does that by going after people that are around it. You know, it's a common thing for first-time runners to want to kind of gawk when they see something interesting happen and they see a bull is separated. And I always tell them, turn and run, get out of there, because you're in a dangerous situation. just one more picture, and then we're gonna get a little more into San Fermines, but I highlight this one. I probably should have highlighted the one of the picture that was taken just a few seconds after this, because I thought in this picture I was gonna overtake this bull coming into a famous curve called La Curva. And just for a second, I placed my hand to its shoulder, and it caught me out of its eye and kicked up its hind leg, planted it behind my leg, and sent me down like a bullet. And I ended up tumbling up under the herd. So again, there is a respect demanded of the bull, because people understand what happens when the bull is molested in any way or distracted in any way, and that can prove ugly, not just for someone like myself in this case, but for really anyone along that run route. I'd be remiss not to also mention, Pamplona is super famous, San Fermín, is because of Hemingway coming here and writing The Sun Also Rises, and also another of other things, but there are bull runs all over Spain. This photo is of the oldest in all of Spain, goes back to the 1200s, in a town called Cuellar. Ran there several years ago. In fact, there are a couple foreigners in this run that I see, Jordan Tipples and Angus Ritchie there. Either way, they essentially allow the bulls to go out into the campo. And the word encierro, which is the word for a bull run in Spanish, really means to encircle or to confine. And so the process of this encierro in Cuellar is the fact that they release them, and then all these people on horseback will get around them and help to kind of make them into a herd, and will drive them as a herd several miles to a place called the Embuldo, which brings them onto the to the streets in the town, and then runners run with them for a portion. But alas, we're back at Pamplona, the home of San Fermines, and let me get into that a little bit. I'll stop sharing. First, you're probably wondering, like, why does this even exist? Why is there a bull run? What is the utility in it all? We talked a little bit about the degree to which El Toro Bravo is this revered animal. Back before you had trucks, hundreds of years ago, even as much as 100 years ago, the easiest way to get animals from out in the pasture into the center of town for whatever activities you were doing, whether it was kind of a market for selling the animals, whether it was some event around those animals, the easiest way to do that was to board up the shops along certain roads, let everyone know, hey, the bulls are coming through it, this time on this day. The animal is so revered that people wanted these moments to be in the animal's presence, to feel that power, to just be in a place of vulnerability and danger, for that excitement of understanding and knowing the power of this animal. And so that really is the origin of the running of the bulls. And just like Cuellar and Pamplona, there are hundreds of towns all over Spain. The season of bull running really goes from February to the end of October with the Fiesta de Onda. But there are hundreds of these. The famous, again, is Pamplona. And if you are a runner within your own region and you kind of want to test yourself against other runners from other parts of Spain, this run here is televised. There's commentators that are analyzing runs. So specific runners are being called out for specific behaviors, and it's being analyzed every day. Either way, San Fermín, the Fiesta de San Fermín here in Pamplona, is July 7th through the 14th. Now, what's that festival? San Fermín was baptized by San Saturnino, who's the patron saint of Pamplona. And San Fermín was martyred around 300 AD in Amiens. As I say, is for talking about Jesus. They cut his head off and quartered him. And so some say that we wear the red pañuelo really in deference to San Fermín and his purity. We wear white during the fiesta, white pants, white shirt. You probably saw in the pictures there, I wear a black shirt during the run. It just so happens it's a lucky shirt that I've always run with. But the idea of Fiesta has always been, I think, two things. One, it typically hundreds of years ago, it actually happened in the fall, and they brought it to the summer really because there's much better weather in July. Either way, it was a time of abundance when all people in the community could really come together and celebrate as one. And so the idea is that everyone's really equal during Fiesta, and everyone's hospitable to one another. In fact, as drunken of a party as it becomes, you see very few fights break out during San Fermín, and it's also seen as bad form, and that you'll lose the protection of the saint or the goodwill of the saint if you do something to disturb the fiesta, like get in a fight or create discord among your family or your community. And so for that reason, it remains a fairly tranquil fiesta. As I said, it goes from July 7th. No, I'm sorry. It goes from July 6th through the 14th. Noon on the 6th of July every year, save for these last two. With coronavirus, they light a rocket from Town Hall, the Ayuntamiento building, and that signals the start of Fiesta. And it's really a massive party, but it's also equally a religious festival. It's a cultural festival. The bulls run for 2 minutes in the morning, and runners are on that route maybe an hour, but by they get released at they get released right on the dot at 8 o'clock, and by 8:05 people are in the bars celebrating. So there's so much more to the day. It's an event for families, for culture. There are basque games that are being played throughout the fiesta, dancing, song, and the like. And so there's a ton of tradition wrapped into it. Outside of the running of the bulls, a good number of people come and don't pay any attention to the run or run themselves. You'll see drunk people still out and partying when you're walking to the run route in the morning around 7 o'clock. Those people are not necessarily going to run. In fact, the police go along the run route before the run to spot anyone that seems drunk, and they'll kick them off the route. In fact, we as runners, when we run, we'll point them out to the police to get them off the route, because we know that making it much more dangerous for everyone else. Really, the bulls run for 8 consecutive mornings. It starts at 8 a.m. on the 7th of July, and it goes through to the 14th. I'll cover a couple rules for the run too while I'm here. So one big one that's counterintuitive, I think, for a lot of people is if you fall down, you stay down. And the reason for that is, we talked about how fast these animals are. They're incredibly athletic. Their heads low to the ground. If you were running at a full sprint and someone fell directly in front of you, you got too much forward momentum to do anything but to try to jump over that person in front of you. And that's exactly what the bulls will look to do. They'll look to jump over you. The problem is if someone stands up and they're a stationary object in front of a bull that's running at full speed, the bull has no option but to lower its head and clear its way. And because the horns of the bull are at pretty unfortunate angles, you have a good chance of something serious happening. Matthew Tassio, the last American to die at San Fermín, it was 1995, fell down in the middle of Ayuntamiento and got back up as a bull was coming through and got a horn through his body. Again, I think probably I should say as a disclaimer as well, I'm not here to tell anyone that they should run in any way. Hopefully my tales in some way at least provide some sort of caution around it. I know inevitably people want to run, but it's certainly nothing I would ever encourage someone to do. Just understanding some of the risks that are involved with the run. How long's Fiesta been going on? It's been going on. There's records of things happening with bulls in Pamplona dating back to the 1300s. And so it's really kind of evolved in that time, and is really the main fiesta for this town of Pamplona. Where is Pamplona? We're about 5 hours north of Madrid, about 5 hours northwest of Barcelona, in the foothills of the Pyrenees. You might be able to even see just a little bit of a hill behind there of the Pyrenees. So it's quite nice in the summer usually, though I am sweating a little bit right now. I think, one other thing I'll say, and this is a nod to San Fermín, and back to the bull. there are a lot of topics about this that well, the topic itself is somewhat controversial. I think the idea of bull running. In many towns in Spain, the bull run is also connected to a bull fight, which is which we show in Chasing Red. And not wanting to make a film that was trying to make a statement of what I personally felt about those things, because I certainly have strong opinions about certain aspects of things here. I've always tried to look at it from a perspective of how do I tell it plainly as what it is. And so Chasing Red is the only documentary on Pamplona to date that actually shows a bull fight. And the thing that I say in it is that regardless of anyone's opinion on anything, the one thing that everyone can agree on about this fiesta is that knowing this animal, El Toro Bravo, it demands a profound respect for it. It's an incredible athletic animal. It's fearless in all respects. It is, something in some ways that I think we as humans try to aspire to sometimes and can often fall short. But I think in the end, it's the bull that's probably the greatest ideal of all the different virtues and values. If I am to kind of personify the animal just for a second, but really is this this ideal of bravery, of composure, of strength, of yeah, I think that's probably it. With that, hopefully I talked for the right amount of time, and I guess we'll open it for questions.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Dennis, for your presentation and your tales. And of course, I want to thank you for your service to our country. So thank you for sharing about that experience as well. Let's see. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to write them in the Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Couple here. So someone asks, since you've gone back for 13 or so years, you mentioned you must see some of the same runners every year, the same people that come back. Do you meet with them? Do you have a group that gets together to strategize, talk about it? How do you sort of meet up with these people?
Sure. Yeah. There are so many people from this town all over Spain. After you've run a couple of years, there are photo shops throughout the town where you can see all the photos of the runs. You can watch the videos, and so you start to learn like who the runners are, and you start to, when they realize that you're here and you're probably coming back, you obviously create these friendships. So yeah, tons of people that I see every year when I come back. After the run, a lot of the runners, the foreign runners, typically go to a bar called Bar Choco to kind of to watch their run, but also to make sure everyone's okay. But yeah, it's a small community of people that do this, and I never thought that I'd come back after making Chasing Red, because it was really making a documentary was my purpose for being here. But recognizing that I had learned so much about the bulls and about the run, I continue to come really to be an instructor for those new Americans that show up every year and need some guidance as to what to do, and really need an ability to make a wise decision of whether they want to do it or not.
Okay, so how do you train for the run if you're not able to obviously practice with a group of 8 bulls? How do you train? What do you tell people?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is being as fit as you possibly can. From a running perspective, I usually tell people practice your 100 and practice your 400 and maybe your 40. If you do the run right, it's really a 40-yard dash. I said that the run was 866 meters, but part of the strategy in the run is you actually want as many runners as possible to run past you, because the route actually starts to clear out as the bulls get closer, and there's a little more room to maneuver and to get out of the way if you happen to be in the path of the bull. But the bulls, as fast as they're running, they're eventually going to overtake you anyways. That is if you're looking to actually run with the bulls. They're going to be running faster than you, and they're eventually going to overtake you. And so you want to make sure that you're as well rested as possible. If you start running too early, you get caught up maybe in the crowd, you're fighting for space, you maybe get knocked over a couple of times, you start to get exhausted. And so that's problematic. But yeah, I tell people, the other thing is there's nowhere safe on the run route, save for being on a balcony. So, you know, if you think you're gonna, hey, wait for the bulls to get close and hop over the barrier because you've seen barriers, the police aren't gonna let you through those barriers. And the reason for that is, you know, there were large slots in the vallado in the walls, but once you stop and throw your leg through the wall, because you have a mass of people that are running down the route, you're now an obstruction to people that are running, and you're creating a trip hazard. Very quickly, you can have what we call a monton, a mountain of people. And so, you know, it's really a decision you have to commit to once the rocket goes off to signal the release of the bulls. But, you know, I also tell people, hey, I don't see anything wrong in people thinking you ran with the bulls. And you know, in some cases, your best bet is really be on a balcony above, watching it, because that's the only way that you can ensure that you're not going to get injured.
Right. And you run every day. You usually do the 8 consecutive runs.
I did while we were filming Chasing Red. I did, and I became a runner really because I wanted to kind of really understand it also as the director of the film. Nowadays, I don't always run all 8 runs, but the degree to which I'm giving instruction to people on how to run, you know, I do kind of see it as a thing I should also be doing, practicing what I preach. And so yeah, I'll usually run 6 or 7 of them.
Let's see. So someone asked, has the festival changed over these years, the past 13 years? Every year you go back, is it always exactly the same? Do they make any changes? Has it changed much for you personally?
Personally, probably the most. I think, you know, my first 6 or 7 years here, I was just really focused on kind of trying to tell a story in Fiesta. And since then, I think I went to breakfast after the run for the first time, like 7 years into coming here. The Fiesta has not changed very much over the time that I've been here. They've installed a couple of cable cameras over the route. In Chasing Red, we used one before that installation happened. So we're really the first film to use something like that. The runners typically will use the camera over the route to gauge where the bulls are, to get a sense as it's tracking over the route. But yeah, it's changed very, very little, I'd say, in the time that I've been here.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think we have time for one more. Someone asks, what insights into general Spanish culture has this festival provided?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just created a desire to know more, certainly to know Spanish better than I do right now. So I happen to be in Pamplona right now to be at an instituto to really professionalize my Spanish speaking. It also has given me appreciation for País Vasco, the Basque country, and the people there. You know, many people in Pamplona speak Basque and see this as a place of Basque heritage. And so, yeah, it's really been being a bull runner, I think, has opened a lot of doors. You know, when people see that you're genuinely committing to some aspect of their culture, you guys know this, I imagine. You know, a few more doors open up, and you get to know a place even better. And that's not a pitch for you need to become a bull runner, but either way, there's value in it.
Great. So your plans are to continue going back every summer as much as you can, even if you're not running?
I think as long as that I'm teaching other people how to run, you know, I can see myself back here. I guess I'm someone not. It's been a wonderful chapter of my life, kind of testing myself and understanding kind of the mundo taurino. But if I move on to something else and a new challenge, you know, I think I'll just always have these memories and be really appreciative for it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dennis, for speaking to us from Pamplona. This has been great. We get a lot of questions from students about San Fermines, a lot of curiosity. So this has been great to be given this oversight of the event and what happens, and we really appreciate it. So thank you so much. I want to also thank Bridget McMahon, who helped put this together. And as we mentioned, we'll be sending out the link to your documentary for people to be able to watch on their own, and people can also submit any questions they may have after that if they want to get in touch with you. So thank you so much, and thanks to everybody who was able to join us today, and enjoy the rest of the summer.